And to everyone out there listening, welcome to another episode of the Professional Heels Podcast. You have me, Brendan and Gavin, also known as the Black John Cena. You have my man, Gavin Gabriel, also known as by me as the Sexy Goldberg. And today we have a special guest. Please, special guest, introduce yourself. Who are you?
Hi guys, so I'm Heel.Liz. As you guys don't know, well, you guys may not know me, but I am the co-host for All Things Wrestling podcast, and I'm also part of the Lucha Libre online team. So you guys may see me around doing interviews here and there backstage, but again, I'm Heel.Liz. So thank you guys for having me.
Welcome, Liz. Glad to see you. Our first woman, our first female on the podcast. So this is a milestone for us. It's awesome to have you. After doing this for 6 months, it's better late than never. But now you will hold that title for as long as our podcast goes on. So congratulations. Welcome.
I'm honored. Am I getting a belt for my showcase?
You know what?
It looks like you'll need to make a little room for another one, but we'll see what we can do.
You can have that as well. You really got one, but I can give you this
one.
What's it?
I don't have that one. I don't have that one. I need to add the black one.
I'm bored of this one already.
Double champ.
I have the universal.
There you go. Roman Reigns right here in the flesh. Female Roman Reigns.
Damn.
Now, Liz, I've had you on Instagram for a couple of years now, and I've noticed the Lucha Libre. I know that's still pretty recent news for you, and I've been starting to see you pop up, and I've been seeing you interview big names and names that are on the rise. How's that going so far?
Well, so far, as you said, I'm still really new to it. I recently got added onto Lucha Libre Online, probably about a month and a half ago. So I'm very, very, very new to everything. I know with All Things Wrestling podcast, we do have interviews, sometimes, wrestlers or just anyone in the wrestling industry, but it's definitely not the same doing an in-person interview, let alone doing it in the actual event. Like everything is, so chaotic, everything, everyone's on a time schedule, things like that. So far, it's been so much fun getting to know so many people, especially uprising stars and, new talent, which I'm a huge fan of. I just recently started attending indie shows. So getting to know a lot of the talent and getting to interview them and giving them a little bit of, even if I can help just a little tiny bit to kind of get their name out there, I'm all for it. I love supporting any other creator when it comes to wrestlers or just other podcasters or just other content creators that that want to be a part of this huge wrestling industry. So it's been fun. I've been loving it. I've been learning a lot as well. It's like I've never had to do anything like this. I'm brand new. I still get nervous. I'm nervous right now.
So am I.
But you carry it well. I get really nervous and I start doing all of this.
It's nice as well. Yeah.
So many hand gestures. You guys are calm and collective. But it's been fun. It's been great. I'm so thankful for the opportunity that Lucha Libre has provided for me when it comes to being able to go backstage and interview a lot of the talent and be able to have see that side of wrestling. I usually see the fan standpoint of view of just wanting to be there, taking my pictures and stuff, but being able to actually conversate with them backstage, it's so totally different. So being able to be a part of that, it's freaking awesome. It's so cool. Like my first event, I walked out and I was like, damn, that dude is so freaking cool. But out there, like everybody hates him, talks trash about this dude. But backstage, like, is one of the realest. Like, so it's so cool. It's so crazy and so fun to see, and being able to kind of, let alone like me, I have heel as my name. So I love to talk to those heels, like where I'm just like, what does it feel like? I'm just like, I want to know what that adrenaline rush feels like from their standpoint.
Yeah.
Because I know some may like it, but some, do not. Some are just like, they're trying, to get up there as a baby face, but, get booed and just run along with it. So I'm like, some opinions are different than others. So It's great. I love it.
Isn't it crazy how some of like the biggest heels at any given show turn out to be some of the nicer of the people at the show?
Oh, absolutely. I kind of started seeing that as I started growing up. I'm just like, maybe they're not always the bad guy. They're just, stating facts. They're just stating facts and people just don't want to hear.
What was it? There's a meme I saw some time ago where it's like some guy who's like sitting down the green or something, and the caption says, when you're watching a movie or an anime show and the villain's actually talking a lot of sense. And you're like, do you know what? You're like, you're making a lot of sense over here. Like, I'm actually on your side here. Even though people might say this and that, or you might have your morals on a different level, you're talking facts here. So, yeah.
Or like, I think there's a meme that says, childhood is loving Batman, but adulthood is realizing the Joker was right about most of it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think that's crazy, and it's like how you said, like once you kind of peel back the curtain and you step into their world from just like a casual fan to like a hardcore fan, or like even considering yourself part of the industry, how completely different it is. And you see through so many social media outlets that those casual fans who haven't had the chance to peel back those layers almost hold it on a pedestal. Like they're so judging of like the characters that they're presented with us that they don't even want to give the person behind the character a chance.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. There's so many people that are misjudged because of their representation in the ring and don't actually get to know the person outside of the ring or what they do. WWE, is a huge example. I mean, they're up in it's easy to say, oh, you suck, you're this, you're that, but it's what they're presented with. It's like you're given a certain role, and unfortunately, you have to abide by the rules and be like, okay, well, I'm gonna go out there and do this until it's my time to shine. And some people tend to judge that, like, oh, well, so and so, and I'm just like, you have to understand it from their standpoint. But sometimes as a fan, you get frustrated too. So I do understand it. I feel it. Like going back to, I actually posted this earlier where there was a rumor, I guess, going around that Gunther was supposed to be buried within the last month. Yeah. So I'm just like, I would have lost my shit because this is Walter, the longest reigning UK champion. Like, how are you gonna, just tarnish and, bury him like so fast, so easy? I'm glad it didn't happen. I'm thankful. I mean, shit happened for a reason, and things are playing out the way that they're playing out at this point. But dude, like how I think at that point I wouldn't have been upset, and it sucks because we wouldn't have been upset at that wrestler at that point because we know how good they are. Yeah. But there's some that are not given the opportunity to show how good they are because they're being buried before they're coming on, and people tend to stick to that, like, oh well, that guy the last time he showed up, he was no good. So when they're coming back and trying to rebrand themselves, they're like, well, you suck, and it's like, dude, like he's probably great backstage and it's just a shitty role that they gave him, and now he's trying to come back and rebrand himself, but you're not giving him the opportunity. So but I totally agree. So I appreciate every wrestler. I learned to appreciate every wrestler as I started getting older. I used to be one of those fans. Don't get me wrong. I used to not see behind the stuff and what they actually did or what they represented. I think social media has a lot to do with it. Social media being able to see them outside of, what they actually, like to do outside, like, whether it's hiking, going to the gym like 3 times a day, whatever it is. But I think it gives us more of an insight of what type of person they are outside of their role. Unless they're Bray Wyatt, then we're still not. We're not sure.
That is really like what you're saying there is really interesting because in the world of wrestling, right, kayfabe is something that's huge. We watch it and we're like, well, we're watching this. This is what's happening. This character is this person, and we are supposed to hate that person, right? So let's say generic standard heel. Oh, he's a douche in the ring, and he beats people up backstage in the show, or he does this and he does that, right? And you kind of just think, oh, this guy's an idiot, or this guy's I hate this guy. Boo! When their entrance hits, right? But then, as you said, like behind closed doors, they're probably some of the nicest, chill guys. you ever see. And I feel like, you know, social media, it's really humanized a lot of the characters, a lot of the performers, I should say, where like, you know, you think, oh, wow, this person who is this character in the ring is actually this person outside the ring. Like the Undertaker was the one that I realized the most, was like, wow, social media really has opened our eyes to see how he's really like. Bearing in mind, the guy went from a dead man to a biker, kayfabe wise, right? But we were still able to see, we were still able to see how he was like outside of the ring, and you're like, oh, this is Undertaker's nice. And then like when he's his character, it's like it's not like it's a completely different person almost. If that makes sense. You still really you tend to like gravitate towards him. You start to like him or her more, and you think you start feeling them more. And yeah, like, I feel like it's kind of why, like, you know, people like Liv Morgan are big now, because they're great performers. They're great performers, but we also know how they're like backstage. We also know how they're like in general. We also know that they're. I mean, this is, you know, in terms of babyface now, but they're babyface in the ring, and they're babyface outside the ring, and people support that. People think she's great, and that's just how it's like in wrestling these days. You know, like, you know, with the power of social media, we really get to see how people are like outside the ring, and yeah.
I think the Miz is a good example as well. Like, from a kayfabe standpoint, like I cannot stand him when the cameras are on. I cannot stand the man. I respect him at this point, but like I'm like, holy hell. And then with reality shows on top of social media, you see that he's a caring family man. He's matured and grown from his MTV days, and he's one of the like nicer, like, present superstars, but at the same time they have to maintain a character. So it's like it's where kayfabe ends and where real life begins. And I think a lot of like your heels probably kind of eat that up with social media being so accessible to the public now, where like you can kind of have this banter and this back and forth, and you see like the memes of like the saucy comebacks that a wrestler will give a fan. But then you have some of the fans who get a little too comfortable and maybe push it a little too far. Like once you start seeing them getting just a little too negative towards some of the performers, it makes you wonder, like, if social media was around back in the 80s and 90s when you had these like very blatant characters, like specific, like Iron Sheik, and like people were like, they would have gone crazy on the internet.
I think the internet would have been discontinued at a certain point.
Very much so. Back when like the first several like black performers or female performers who were starting to get pushed, like it would have been terrible.
I'm trying to think.
It's terrible today.
Yeah, even today. I mean, on social media, you see a lot of, especially wrestling, you see a lot of negative stuff. Like, even I'm on Twitter and I'm just looking at the comments and I'm just thinking, damn, you guys are like bloody losers. You guys, like, the product would be decent, but you don't like this person because you don't fit your sort of idea of what the show should be like, or even though that person's a great performer, you don't like them just because you don't like them. So because you don't like them, you want everyone else to hate them, and it's just like that's just stupid. And I remember I said to my one of my guys, like, I don't know why I remember this comment so well, but I said to myself, right, because I was right as well, because I was proven right on that day, where I said, if Stone Cold Steve Austin, if the internet was around when Stone Cold Steve Austin was a champion and must not, right, you know, Stone Cold and Hulk Hogan before and must not, right, everyone would be like, oh my god, this guy is so boring, he's getting pushed all the time, what does he do, why is he winning all the time? It's like, mate, come on, man, come on. Like, the amount of times I see like guys just talking absolute nonsense on the internet, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, man, just get a life. The thing is, I've seen it as well. I think, you know, remember when Daniel Bryan was doing this whole fickle title reign around
when he kind of went
early 2019,
like his vegan
and
heel turn,
paper or wooden belt, and he was saying that fans were pissed because they I loved it. They lift you up. They're like, yeah, we really want you, right? Or we want this person to get to the top. That person then gets to the top, and they switch on that person disgustingly. It happened to Kofi Kingston, it happened to Big E, and it's happened to Liv Morgan right now. And I'm like, dude, you were screaming, you were screaming, push this person, give that person the belt. They have the belt. you're like, they're not doing this, they're not doing that, they're not doing this. And it's like, okay, you can criticize, of course, but it's like you haven't said anything positive. You just saying something, just saying negative stuff. It's just like, this is why I don't know. When it comes to the IWC, whatever they call it, inter wrestling community, man, I didn't even pay attention, man.
I think casual fans just don't know what they actually
casual
want.
fans have no bloody.
They're confused. I feel like if you're being a casual fan, it's not. You shouldn't be on the internet getting advice for wrestling.
Yeah, stay off the dirt sheets.
I don't just watch the show. Just watch the show. That's it. Like if it comes up and you tend to watch it. But do not get into conversations with like these hardcore fans because you will not win.
You'll get schooled.
Like, you will not. And it's so crazy. Yeah, exactly. Aside from that, and then they're the nastiest too. They're really nasty. And like going back, I've seen them on, on wrestlers, IG page. I'm just like, bro, it's a storyline. Relax. Like, write a journal about it, how you feel, but don't go into the comments and, like, literally give them death threats because they had to, low blow somebody. Like, y'all mad for no reason.
What I mean? And I've seen people, right? I'm like, you take this shit way too seriously because, what is it? Sometimes I might comment, WWE will share a post, right? And I might comment on it. And because of my verification, my comment goes to the top, right? So everyone can see it, right? I would say something like, I'm excited for tonight because generally I'm a fan and I'm excited for tonight. And then you have some bloody loser called Hot Dogs 565 or whatever the guy's name is, saying
no profile picture,
no DP whatsoever, saying
no follower.
You say something like, oh man, how can you watch this shit? Like, you don't know anything. You're a loser. I'm like, dude, I just said I'm excited to watch wrestling.
How are you on this page? How are you on this page if you're just gonna talk down on wrestling?
And they'd be like, oh my god, you're on this. Why are you commenting on WWE's page? Or oh my god, I think what was it? What did I say? I think I said I liked the performer the other week. I forgot who it was, but they roasted me in the comments. They were like, this guy's shit. This guy's shit. This guy's shit. He's terrible. He's terrible. And I'm like,
Austin Theory.
I think it was Theory. Thank you. It was Theory.
I really don't think Austin Theory is shit. Like, I think he's overly hyped through management backstage. And it's the same thing that happened with Roman. How many years didn't people deny Roman and eventually came around?
Yeah.
Now he's the tribal chief. Like, you
gotta earn it.
Like,
Pay your
it
dues.
was like, I think exactly. Like, I mean, I understand the whole, he's a blueprint, or John Cena was a blueprint to Theory, but I mean, I get it. I like the comparison. I love it. I was a Theory fan since he was in NXT. I didn't watch him before in the Indies, unfortunately. But I became a fan of Theory in NXT before he became part of The Way with Gargano's. I was already a fan. I was like, okay, I'm feeling this guy. This guy's going to be huge. And then he goes on to Raw, and it's like, oh, he's Baby Cena. And it's like, he needs, his own space. Yeah. He needs his own character. He needs just to be him.
A lot of people...
And the whole selfie thing is just like Cena and Fandango added together, or something like that. Or what's called, what's his name? No, not
Tyler
Fandango.
Breeze,
the other,
Fandango,
Tyler Breeze. There we go. Yeah, I was going to say Breezango, and I was like, Tyler Breeze. Yeah. Okay. Like, it's literally that together. One. I don't know. He just needs to be out there, be a beast, and like, I don't know. I don't.
The Cena comparison's definitely hurting him, but it's a lot of people telling him like he needs to pay his dues, that because he's so young, he's only 23, 24, and they're like, he has to earn this, but they forget that he spent that time in NXT and he's actually already on the main roster as a part of Seth Rollins with the Authors of Pain a while back.
That's where I think that Vince messed up when he moves them up from NXT to the main roster before Triple H took over. Yeah, so all he did was like, oh well, we want nothing. We just want to bring them in. They're brand spanking new, but they build a name for themselves in their performance in their developmental brand. So it's like, how are you going to develop them and then bring them in and just be like, oh, you don't know nothing about these guys. It's a whole new name. Yeah. Who are they? Like, and like you can't expect that. Like, I feel like they should have done what Triple H is doing now, where he's hyping up Io Shirai or Io Sky. Now WWE is posting throwbacks of NXT from War Games. Like, now people are gonna be like, oh shit, like this girl's a high flyer. Like, now people that don't watch NXT are intrigued of who Io Sky is. Yeah. But when she came out at SummerSlam, I'm pretty sure half of the people there didn't even know who she was. Because they don't promote their developmental brand. So I'm just like, why would you do this? So I like what Triple H is doing right now. He's reintroducing them. He's reintroducing Dakota Kai.
They're like
they're bringing back Karrion Kross, not what Vince was doing, but Karrion Kross, the former NXT champion. So I'm just like, dude, like this is what they were built for a reason there. To be able to be moved up to the main roster, keep that same momentum. Why are you trying to change them now? That's the only thing I don't like, and that's what they did with Theory. With Theory, they built them all there, did everything, moved them. No promotion, no, this is who he is, this is what he did. He was with Gargano, he was part of the way, before they came here, like, he's part of this, this big faction, like, that, all these names in NXT if you were familiar with the brand. So I don't know, I feel like they kind of messed up with Theory in a way. So I really hope that Triple H kind of gets that little gets time with him to be able to redeem him and actually build him to what he is going to be, because that dude's gonna be a star. I don't know, he has the face, he has the look, he has the body.
The way you said it, right, that was perfectly normal, and what's the word I'm looking for? It was civil. It wasn't rational. It was rational. It was very rational, right? Smart. How can I say, thought out, oh my god, my English is so bad today. What I'm trying to say is basically you're spitting, right? Right? And you're spitting in a way in which, you see, you're saying your reason for why you're not really feeding Theory so much right now, right? Yeah? And that's fine, because one, I agree with you, but two, the guys in the comments, right, when they are saying they don't like him, they have no real reason to not like him. They just say, I don't like him. And I'm like, all right, cool. And he sucks. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, Brendan, I don't interact with these people online, because I got told off by my manager. He said, you need to stop talking to these people. And I said, oh crap. Okay, so you're damaging your brand here.
Yeah, just stop clapping back. You're like, that's my problem. I clap back.
I was like, what?
I got time today.
They bait you.
He was like, nah, man, stop. So so that's fine, right? And what you're saying is entirely correct, because I like Theory and I feel Theory. I just feel, for me, the only thing that was damaging, which I know Gabriel will agree with, is the whole Cena comparisons, because that messed up Reigns. John Cena's his own guy. And, it's a thing where in Theory, he's got the factor, he's got the it factor. And I feel Theory, when he won the Money in the Bank, I knew it as well, because what was it? I remember the time in February, he won the Money in the Bank, right? Everyone other than me and Gabriel was like, how could he win? That can't be.
They were pissed they put him in the match.
I mean, come on, man. They were pissed.
So many people were pissed.
Yeah.
I wasn't surprised. They did that the year before with Lesnar, so I wasn't really surprised when it happened.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and like, I'm like, yeah. What was it? What was? There was one promo, I think it was like 3 weeks ago, where he actually showed a serious side, like he wasn't joking about. And I'm just there like, yeah, now you can talk. Now you're talking. And then I started seeing the comments of the people be like, yeah, Theory, that was a great promo. And the week after, they're on the side. I'm like, you guys are pricks. Screw you guys, man. You guys are hella fickle, man. Screw you. Oh, 1 week you hate it, now you love him, because he finally came out of his character. He finally showed you a little bit of what he's actually capable of, rather than just being a man's lapdog. But yes, that's just how it's like with wrestlers, man. A lot of them, a lot of fans don't appreciate the person. Do you understand? When you start to appreciate the person who is the character, you then can appreciate the character even more, especially if it's a good character. Because you know that person's killing in the gym. You know that person's a good person. You know that person. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah. And it's touching back on what Liz said, how where they're starting to like acknowledge superstars' accomplishments from NXT. Like this person was a 2-time NXT. So to where it's like it's the same thing with professional sports. Like if you only watch the top of you watch the NBA, a new player comes in, you have no idea who he is, but they talk a little bit. Oh, this guy led his team in scoring in college. He won a champion. And then you're like, interesting. You go back and you look into it, and that's where, like, now with Triple H at the helm, it's kind of going to smoothen itself out over the next year. But that's part of the reason why I was so big on Theory. And I don't get why WWE didn't do this, because he was big in GCW. And I think they didn't do it because a lot of that roster ended up with AEW, so they don't want to, like, oh, here's footage, and it's mostly Darby Allin and this person and this person. But, like, WWE, I believe they bought out GCW, and they did, like, a joint event when they were finishing up. And it was even, like, Paul Heyman helped Austin Theory win the world title and before it dissolved. But, like, if any of that had even been acknowledged going into NXT, like, this guy's won this many world heavyweight titles in the indies, this, like, it would have at least given a little, but it's everyone thinking, oh, he's a ripoff of Cena with a little bit of Tyler Breeze on there. He's 22 years old, and they're pushing him way too heavy because they don't know about him. They think he's out of the blue. It's the same thing they did with Karrion Kross or Killer Kross. Like, people who just watched WWE or who were just watching NXT, they don't understand that he was putting on matches with some of the biggest stars on the indies before he came to NXT, and then they're like, oh, they're pushing him too fast. He's only been here for 2 months. Why is he already world champion?
Like, and I agree. Like, there's no, like, pre-promo of who this person is. Like, even in football in England, or as you guys like to call it, soccer, so I had to get that big out. When there's a player comes from, like, a different league, right, especially to the English Premier League, the commentators always talk about who this person is, right? They always talk about this. Bear in mind, no one knows who he is. There's so many players I've seen, right, who I have had no clue who they are, and the commentators said, oh, he played for this team in France for 2 years, and he helped them get there, or he helped them get up to, like, the top of the league or whatever, and now he's at this team in England, right? And you're, as the fan watching at home, you're like, oh, okay, cool. Now my eyes are going to be on that guy now, because now they've told me who he is. Now I'm going to be watching him. You understand? So when you can apply that to wrestling, it's obviously because, you know, football is like, basically, if you're good enough, you'll score the goals, or blah blah. But in wrestling, if this guy comes into the roster, right, no one has a Scooby who he is. The commentators, the promo packages are talking about how this person was a madness in NXT, right? Everyone's now going to be excited, because now they're like, oh, okay, what's this performer going to do now? How's he going to be in the main roster? Is he going to be as good as this legend or that legend? They've really started making those talks happen. So I think also, like, when it comes down to, you know, the product and with fans, I get why fans have less hope and why the fans are pessimistic, because I love WWE myself. I love WWE, and I know when WWE shit. I will hold my hands up high and say, yeah, I know that the show is, like, not looking good.
Might be where Vince was out of touch.
Like,
just like it may have just been like, you got to credit him for everything he's done, but just that, you know, you can't do it that good, like, forever.
In 2022, you might become like, you know, people might be looking at you like a dinosaur, and you can't admit that you're essentially getting old and out of touch. And that's why I get why wrestling fans could, you know, at that time, you know, I'm not excusing now, but at that time, were negative towards the product. I get it, because, you know, you have people like Samoa Joe, who's like, bloody Samoa Joe, I don't need to talk for him, right? Coming to the roster, doing a good job. Obviously, injuries kind of, you know, messed up a little bit, but when he was meant to get pushed, he didn't get pushed. So obviously the fans are going to be like, oh, what's this? What's the point? Oh, blah, the product is crap. And I get that. But nowadays, you know, we have, you know, products like AEW, that bring us that, you know, have guys like CM Punk, John Moxley, Jericho, so and so on, right? I can't remember all the times they were there. But my point is, we've got, like, another show that can essentially rival WWE. And now we've got Triple H bringing back guys from NXT, guys that we, performance that we genuinely loved. And that gives us more optimism. I feel like we will start to see fans feeling the product a bit more now, especially casual fans. Because casual fans I feel like they're the money makers for the company. When it comes to WrestleMania, they're always going to watch WrestleMania. When it comes to Royal Rumble, the casual fans are going to watch Royal Rumble. Survivor Series, SummerSlam, they are watching it, and they'll probably watch it more than the person who's falling out of love with it, than the massive fan who's falling out of love with the show. Because the one who's falling out of love with the show just can't be bothered anymore. Whereas the casual fan just wants to see it because it's WWE, and that used to be really cool like 10, 15 years ago, do you know what I mean? So, yeah.
Sorry, definitely something you can tell there's passion between all of us here about the optimism of the stuff moving forward. Dialing it back just a little bit, Liz, if you want to go ahead, just tell us a little bit about like what got you into wrestling. Who were some of your favorites out the gate? Like what has you as like such a diehard wrestling fan?
Oh, well, my easy answer, and it's like my forever.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Cena fan. It's the reason why I got into wrestling, is the reason why I stuck around for so long. I mean, I enjoyed, watching everyone else along the way. I became a fan of everybody else, but majority of the reason why I would even consider watching was because of John Cena. If I missed it, I would be upset. My mom knew that I was obsessed with John Cena, but didn't know that I actually loved and I'm just passionate about wrestling in general. But it was different for my mom, because she would have assumed that my brothers would be into wrestling and not me. And especially now, like my brother, I had FaceTimed him not that long ago, and he's seen my room. He's like, what? He's like, you're so weird. He's like he knew I liked wrestling. He knew he was going to wrestling shows, but he had never seen this side of me.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So for him, he's just like, what? And then he grew out of it eventually, and then he kind of watched it here and there with me, but he wasn't so intrigued and crazy about what was going on. Like, I think at the last time that he had watched it with me was back when DX was having their feud with the Spirit Squad. So he was kind of like having fun with like, what they were doing and stuff. But yeah, so he was like, he wasn't so like, oh my God, I need to, start watching again and he wasn't like that. Maybe if I take him to an indie show now, he'll probably get back into it. But I should maybe if he comes back to California. But I started watching at a very, very young age. I was probably like around 8, I believe, or 7. When I started kind of getting introduced to it, my dad used to watch it, but it wasn't like he was trying to get me to watch it. It was more trying to get him to watch it, my brother. But for me, I'm just like, I was raised like, with all males around me. All my cousins, most of my cousins were all males. So I was just raised around all males. So I was a tomboy. I was just like, I'm a tomboy. Like, I like to do guy shit. Like, I'm like, I liked playing with Barbies, but eventually they just creeped me out. So,
you had those Barbies getting swanton bombed by your John Cena toys.
I watched too many movies, so Barbies just creeped me out. But I got into wrestling. Not into wrestling, unfortunately. I didn't come from a home that was able to provide me with all this good stuff. But my mom eventually started seeing that I was passionate about John Cena. So she started like buying me wrestling shirts. So at school, I was the only girl that was into wrestling. So that shit was pretty cool.
Had your own lane.
I thought it was cool. People thought it was weird, because from my uniform shirt, you could only see like the little John Cena head popping out. My folder was filled with like John Cena pictures, everything. If they hardcore, like it was just everything Cena. Whoever Cena feuded, I didn't care. I was still on Cena's side. If Cena was wrong, he was right to me. So I was just all about him growing up until he kind of started,
part-time,
kind of like you were able to tell when he was kind of like pulling out a little bit more. But from there, I was still a fan of the brand. I was just that was my one person. I was like, who's your favorite? Cena. Who would you pick? Cena. If you had to, Cena. I'm like, if it's Cena, like it was just.
I definitely feel that. Like, so Bret Hart is who got me in, but like, and he always will be like a top 3 for me. But like, if you were to ask me 10 matches of his, I probably couldn't name you them. Yeah. But I just know the shades and the black and pink and the sharpshooter, and he wasn't too out here this way or out here this way. He was just like a cool ass dude. And I was like, yes, always. So you always remember your first there. Being a female, was there any female talent starting out that you're like, oh shit, she's doing it. She's a badass. She's good looking. This isn't just a man's sport. This is for the ladies too.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I love Trish because I loved her girly side. I loved everything about her, but just the edginess of Lita was always my favorite. I like to be edgy. I like to be different. I'm tall, so I think I was just born to stand out, literally. But for me, I don't like to blend in or, stuff like that. I'm just like, I like to just stand out. Like, this past weekend, I'm like, perfect example, or Thursday, perfect example. I just like to stand out. So I love the edginess that Lita brought, the hardcoreness, of course, brought that out from, Trish. They brought it out from each other. But I think for me, I was just more of like, oh, I like her. She's fucking badass. Like, I want to do the shit that she does. I never dared to because eventually I just like, went. So I was like, no, I don't want to break a bone. I'll just watch you guys do it.
There you go.
But for female wise, Lita was kind of like, when I was like, when I grow up, I want to be like her. Like, when I grow up, I want to dress like her. Like, I just love how, like, she just didn't give a fuck. Like, eventually, when she got to her, stage with being with Edge and, doing all the seductive and like all that stuff, I'm just like, you could be badass and sexy, like, bitch, you do it all. Like, like.
Definitely in a league of her own, though.
Oh, absolutely. Like, this girl she's a queen, and that was for me one of my biggest inspirations. I love Trish. Don't get me wrong, I love her. I grew up in the Divas era. So I grew up with Kelly. I'm a huge Michelle McCool fan. So I'm a huge fan of the Divas era. Just as much as I am of the women's division now. I think it's just completely different. I think I bring more of my sassiness from the Divas era. I think I just groped onto like all of that. That now that I'm older, I'm just like, okay, like, I like to be badass, but it's like, I still want to be, badass but cute. So, make sure that, your hair is good, your outfit is cute, stuff like that. I don't do the whole bikini swimsuit stuff, not yet, but, But the other thing that I did love about the Divas era, and I'm pretty sure all males love this era too, was the Playboy era. I was always obsessing of like their covers, and I'm just like, bitch, like, you fine as hell, and you're a wrestler. I was just like, it's just, I don't know, like, I was just so appreciative of the Divas era.
They played to their strengths, because I mean, like, severely underrated wrestlers at the time, but I mean, still, like, compared to now, like, you look at them, like, they clearly were, like, now they are just premier athletes. Then they were good athletes for women, but at the same time they had to play their strengths. So the cattiness and the promos and the using their assets and their beauty to kind of help play with it. Whereas now it's kind of a well-rounded, but definitely the Divas. I mean, I'm a Maurice fan myself, but just the whole package, the cattiness and the being women to the best that they can be. Like, it was definitely... It's hard to explain to some of the newer casual fans who are like, oh, this is women's wrestling. They're doing crazy moves, and they're going through tables. And, yeah, most of them are really cute. but like where it was kind of like a super focus on the looks, on the cattiness. Their promos were a little more sassy and female-esque, but like in a good way.
Yeah.
When it was like moving out of like the diva, like moving away from like the pudding fights and the bra and panties matches, but they were still using like their looks to their advantage, kind of thing. Definitely severely underrated.
I think the time I was watching wrestling was the year 2002, precisely. I would have been 5 then. I would have been a 5-year-old kid then, and all I remember was just I'm the youngest in my family. I've got 2 older brothers. One who is about to turn 29 soon, and the other is 32. And those 2 were just watching Stone Cold, The Rock, Undertaker just beat the holy shit out of each other every single time. Like just punch. And that was wrestling then. And obviously you had the divas back then who were... So you had the testosterone, the strong men, the I'm gonna beat you up sort of thing. Then you had the ladies, the girls who were very attractive, beautiful women who were very good performers. Actually, people said it way too much. They're very good performers, but at that time they were well known for their how attractive they were. Long story short, how attractive they were, and it gets to the point where I think when I was watching myself, especially the wrestlers that I liked, I was the wrestler that I liked the most. No, I liked 3 wrestlers. It was Kurt Angle, Chris Jericho, and The Undertaker. And everyone, when I was interviewed all the time, they were like, they always ask me, how's it like being a massive John Cena fan? And I'm like, you do realize I'm not a John Cena fan at all, right? No, I didn't say that. I did not say that, but I'm like, you do realize that he's in my top 5. He's not my top 1. I love the guy. Me and him just look alike, right? And I was that guy who, oh my God, yeah, because growing up, people were like, oh my God, your brother's on the screen. Your brother's on the screen. You must love him. You must love everything about him. I'm like, yeah, I like him, but I Undertaker better. Like, if he beat the Undertaker, I'd be pissed. So it was one of those ones where it's like, I really, and I think the older I got, the more I started to appreciate Cena. That's how it's like, when you're younger. He's like, he was everyone's hero, but I was that bloody idiot. He was like, I'm too cool for that. Like, I want to be the different boy who doesn't like what everyone else likes. I want to like my own thing because I'm so different and so unique. God, that's such a dork. Fucking hell, mate. But my point is that I was that guy, and obviously, that was how wrestling was like for me back then. And I think I only actually took 1 year off wrestling because I think when I found out it was fake sort of thing, I was like, God, yeah.
You stop believing in Christmas for 6 months, but then you're like, wait, maybe if I believe hard enough, though. No. I feel that. I know exactly where you're coming from.
Video. It was Shawn Michaels. No, it wasn't Shawn Michaels. It was John Cena giving someone the 5 knuckle shuffle, and he missed it. And the person was like, I'm hurt. And I'm like, no.
And he missed it, goes right on top.
This can't be true.
No.
No. So I kind of justify it so much. I'm like, maybe he did hit him, or maybe he's trying to trick Cena. Oh, mate, my mind was going through so many things.
Real roller coaster of emotion.
So yeah, I was literally.
He said, I'm trying to justify
maybe he's just that strong that him punching the canvas right next to him just gave him whiplash.
But yeah, that was a win. Back then, obviously, I'm still a fan now, and yeah, I just want to get that in because I was like, hey, I would have talked about I watched wrestling when I was a kid. But yeah.
Damn, I don't think I didn't stop watching, but I got a lot of shit for it when I was like in 5th or 6th grade.
Mm-hmm.
I was hardcore, and they were like, it's fake, right? You know this, you know that, and like the shit that we hear now, So the only difference is I gotta cut back now.
Stand up for it.
You know, and you know the funniest thing is when you could cut back as you're wearing like a Spider-Man shirt. Like I'm just like,
this is fake too. This is fake too.
On issue. And like you want to talk? You sure? Because you believe that women are going to come out of this food's hands. Yes. Like, okay.
There you go.
Stop. But no, I think that was like the worst that I ever kind of got it. It was like 5th grade when I was into wrestling. So there was a point where it's not that it was embarrassing, but I didn't want to share that I was into wrestling. Because people used to make fun of it. I'm just like, oh, this, you know, and that. And then for me, like I was only into it. Like my brother wasn't into it at that time anymore. Like he wasn't watching. And then my dad wasn't around, so it wasn't like, oh, you know, I watched this with my dad and, you know, stuff like that. Like this was something that I was intrigued in. I loved it, and I was watching it weekly. So eventually I was just like, oh, you know, I don't watch it, or I would just not talk about it. And stuff like, so it sucks. So, you know, fast forward to like, you know, being older, I'm just like, you know, social media, it was, you know, kind of the reason why I got into wanting my own page with wrestling was just to talk to other people about wrestling. Even more, you know, going through that, and even till this day, like, you know, till I got my page, I didn't have anybody to talk wrestling with. And then when I'd go to shows, like I would probably end up always talking to the person next to me, and I'm just like, I need friends. Like I'm just like, I need wrestling friends. Like I have no wrestling friends. But I think I think 5th grade was the worst, where I was kind of like, I was doubtful if I wanted to remain being a fan because of the people around me. And then a lot of people here don't watch it, and even if they did, they would. I come from like my community is mostly, you know, Hispanic community, so everybody's like into lucha libre, where they think lucha libre is real, but wrestling WWE was fake. So the irony was like they're so you know, so after that I was just like, you know what, I'm like I'm the whatever. It's like I was a huge John Cena fan. When it came to me holding my full, I was like in class, you know, I was a John Cena fan. If I had it in my backpack, you wouldn't even know I watched wrestling, unless if I was wearing it like a shirt. But that got like, till I was more comfortable with it. At first I was like, okay, you know, my watching it with my dad, with my brother, you know, cool. And when I got a little older, my brother got over it. Everybody, I guess, in my class also, like, you know, was like in that same wavelength, except for me. So they were just like, oh, it's fake, it's this, it's that. I'm just like, dude, like, okay, like, why you gotta kill it for me? Like, I know it's fake. I know that, you know, this person is, you know, if they bleed that much, I'm not sure I would pass out. So I, you know, so I mean, sometimes it is real. That little gush, like, you know, sometimes that shit is real. But then there's sometimes where they're like, we're gonna prep you up, and once they hit you here, you're gonna explode. You know, when it gushes too much, you're like, bitch, I would have been passed the fuck out.
That JBL Eddie match where he hit him with the chair, and he was that's immediately came to mind. But like there are real aspects to it. It was one of those things too. I definitely agree with you. The 5th grade, even for a male, because that was where it was like, you start thinking about girls. It's like, dude, you're watching half naked guys.
Oh yeah, I remember
roll around.
I do that.
Are you gay? And it was like dude, it's action. It's that they're fighting. It's the same thing as boxing. They're just doing different moves. Yeah. Oh, it's fake. And it's one of those where like I just stopped wearing it because I didn't want the argument. Like I was like, I'm gonna like it, but I'm gonna like it on my own time. Yeah. Now like half of my freaking closet is pro wrestling. Like I'm just running across the street. I'm gonna throw on a Bullet Club shirt. I'm gonna walk over there. But now, like nowadays, like if you go out in a wrestling shirt and a wrestling fan sees it, like they'll engage with you. Like they'll be like, "Oh shit, it's
like that." That's actually something that's funny.
I think community's a lot stronger for pro wrestling.
Like when it's a newer shirt, I love it because you know that they're into wrestling now. When it's a legend, you know, like, okay, they watched back in the days, or they're like, oh, I stopped watching once.
Oh, I just like it. It's a vintage shirt.
Conversation. Yeah, exactly. But when they were like so recent, I'm just like, okay, you a fan. Okay, you know who this is.
That a
like,
Baron Corbin shirt?
I do like it.
Yeah. No, I always like obviously you see someone like, I can tell when someone's like a bit of a fan or someone's a serious fan. I feel like someone's a serious fan if, you know, they've got the Viking Raiders shirt on. I'm like, okay, you're definitely like a WWE, like, you love the show, fair play, like, because that, you have to really like, not saying that Viking Raiders are bad, but you're like, for someone that's not known, and for you to like rock that shirt, you have to like really like the show. But what I was gonna say, I actually haven't seen this pop in some time, which is why I haven't done it in time. But for the past year since going viral, every time I see someone in the Cena top, right, and the person's freaked out every single time, I've actually said to them, "Oh, I like your top. You John Cena fan?" And they'll be like, "Yeah, I am." And then it's actually really funny because it happened to me in the gym yesterday actually. And then they'll be like, "Wait, are you?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I'd be like, "Yeah, Black Cena thing." And they'll be like, "Oh shit, I'm the black one. That's sick. I didn't know you were English. I didn't know you were from Britain. I thought you were American." I'm like, "No, like, mate, I'm from fucking Croydon, mate. Like, I'm from South London. Do you know what I mean?" They're like, "What? You're from Ends? Nah, that can't be. I thought you were from New York or something." I'm like, "No." And then I love this thing because, like, it's like, this is such a community. This is such a community because, like, you could literally see someone wearing the shirt. You don't know who they are. You have no idea what they do for a living, but you're like, wow, you're wearing something that I'm aware of. Cool shirt. And then the conversation goes on and on. That interaction I just did was embarrassing though, because it was in front of a whole gym, right? And I just said that because he was in NXT. He was in NXT UK actually. I forgot his name. It's called Levi something, and he's like a guy who's from Britain. And when he found out that I was the meme from last year, he literally, bear in mind, this is like a 5:30 p.m. gym, so this is rush hour time, right? He screams, "Oh shit, you're the Black Cena! I thought your face looked familiar! That's mad! What?" The music starts coming on in the background. He's like, no way! You're Black Cena, no way! Oh shit! But yeah, no, that's the funny thing I like to do sometimes when it comes to seeing fans in shirts. But I do you know what? I don't even have any wrestling shirts. The only wrestling shirt I have is a shirt that says "Professional Heel," and that's from what my buddy made, and that's where I got this, you know, the name of the podcast from. And like, I don't even know what other shirt I'd wear. Like, I wouldn't feel embarrassed. I would never feel embarrassed. But I just don't know what I would wear in public. Like what?
If you're big ass wearing a pro wrestling shirt in public, they're just gonna assume, like, non-wrestling fans are just gonna assume you're that wrestler.
Yeah, that's it.
If you're ready for that life, yeah.
That's it.
Now, Liz, is there any interview you've done with a wrestler, whether professional, up and coming, someone we've never heard of? Is there a favorite interview that you've had so far, and is there an interview that you are dying to have, maybe aside from John Cena?
Ooh, damn. Okay, so far I recently just started. I had like my first interview, I think like last month at a show. So I'm still fairly new. I really enjoyed that Chavo Guerrero interview that I had with him. I was so nervous, because you know who he is, but I think it was just more because I wasn't expecting to interview him. I knew he was going to be there.
Yeah.
I just didn't think I was going to have time with him, and I wasn't expected. I was just like, damn, if it happens, it happens. But you know, if it doesn't, then I completely understood. But I think that one was one, like, especially, you know, growing up with Chavo and seeing him with Eddie, and you know, it was more meaningful for me and pleasing my childhood, and then my heritage as well. You know, he's Mexican, I'm Mexican, so that for me was one of my I would have loved to interview Eddie Guerrero as well. Rest in peace. I would have loved to interview him if I could have, or even Rey Mysterio. You know, being from Southern California, you know, being huge representation, you know, for Mexicans, that for me just here. But overall, if I had to pick anyone, if I can sit down with them now, there's so many people I would love to sit down with. But aside from John Cena, shit, there's so many people. I think I would say Dolph Ziggler.
Veteran of the game.
I've met him. He's so great. But I would love to actually sit down with him and have legit interview and conversation with him. He would be one of the top
extremely down to earth and then funny as hell. From what I hear.
Absolutely. He is so. This guy is a people person. He's a people person. He made his alone time being at home, everything. But when he is around people and around his fans, oh my God, this guy is a fresh breath air. He is so he just conversates with you. He's into the conversation that he doesn't try to hurry you up. It's not like, how are you? Who are you? Blah, blah, blah. Take a picture. It's not like that. He takes his time. And that was actually one of the things that I brought up to him because I've met him twice already. I met him at SummerSlam last year. And then I met him here when AEW was here for, they're making their debut here in Southern California. He had a show out here with his brother at the House of Lucha, Republic of Lucha. And there was a meet and greet as well. And I got to meet him and I talked to him about it. I was just like, dude, it's like, I can't believe you stayed up, past, you went through the whole entire pay-per-view, having to go through, media all damn day. They wake up early. They have early mornings, pay-per-view days. This dude still stayed up to 4 a.m. signing autographs and doing meet and greets for all those people that bought tickets. And I'm just like, that just shows a lot, as a performer, because there's times where this is the only time that I have. And then they're quick to, to leave. But he took his time to talk to everybody, didn't rush anybody. And he was so nice. He was so sweet. And he's very
there you go. That's
but professionally,
I'm half Mexican, and the first show I went to here in Tucson, I'm in Arizona. I got to meet Conan and Juventud Guerrero. And Hoovy, I actually met again when I was help promoting a indie show here. He was coming down for a match, and I brought it up to him, and he was just still really cool. So right there with you, just just having that. When you take away this persona of almost like a celebrity, just being a television, a television character, when you strip that away and you see how real down to earth most of them are. I mean, they're not all. I mean, you see there are definitely some who are. I definitely had some run-ins with some pricks in the industry, and it is a very much one lane industry. You want to be the top. No one else is going to get you there. It's the work you put in. So, and you have some. I think some of these. Not up and coming. It's usually the vets who never quite get out of the indies that I've seen it with. That are slowly start to get a little more. Yeah. I don't have time to do an interview. I'm too good to do this kind of thing.
Yeah, no. That.
Bro, are you letting time?
I mean, you're not wrong.
Obviously, you won't name drop people, but I've experienced that as well. With you're I'm dude, listen.
But yeah,
why
absolutely.
not? And then they're they haven't been no one's heard of them for the past 15, 20 years. But we're wait, we were fans of you. Let's talk. And they'd be nah. I'd be oh, damn, really? Just like that? Just like that? Wait, can you guys hear me? Yeah, guys. Can anyone hear me? You can.
Yeah. I feel that. Don't want to take up too much more of your time, Liz. We've been about an hour here. But if you want to, just go ahead, let the listeners know what you got coming up, what you got going on.
I can hear you.
Brendan, I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you.
You're cutting out a little bit. Yeah. You were cutting out there for a second, but again, I'm more so hoping you can hear me.
Worst internet right now. I am so listen. Liz.
That's
spin, and I was
but But Liz, before we kind of finish up here, if you want to go ahead and just tell the listeners what you got going on, where we can see you next, where we can find you, all that good stuff.
Yes, of course. Well, again, you guys can find me on all social media platforms as at Heel.Liz. I will be doing some upcoming shows for.
We got a couple of West Coast United States and one in the UK.
I can hear this.
Brendan, we can't hear you.
What's that?
What's up?
I don't know if I can just mute him. You can start that again. That was a practice take. If you want to go ahead. At the Heel.Liz.
That's okay. Let's see. He's back on.
Yeah, perfectly.
Can you hear us, Brendan?
You back on? Thumbs up. Give us a thumbs up.
His face
or a
pretty
thumbs
frozen.
down.
Brendan, I think he can hear. If you want to try that again, tell us what you got going on. At the Heel.Liz, where can we see you next?
Oh yeah. Alrighty, so hold on. Now I'm just like trying to like.
This was all. Was all part of the plan. I told him to just throw a curveball in the middle there, see if you can keep your composure. It's like a fan interrupting in the middle of a.
I would have failed. No, did you see my Chavo Guerrero interview where there was a fan that walked behind us because she knew that we were doing an interview, but she still wanted to walk there.
Oh, this will be on the internet somewhere. I'm famous now.
Right? She's like, oh, that's me right there. But yes, you guys can find me at Heel.Liz and all social media platforms. I do have some upcoming shows that I will be attending for Lucha Libre Online. Unfortunately, I'm not able to disclose those until we're closer up to the event, which would be at the end of the month. But aside from that, you guys can catch me at a lot of local indie shows. I'm always posting up all these upcoming new wrestlers on my social media page. So please make sure that you guys go follow and support all the indie wrestlers out there. They're all amazing. And so
there you go, Liz. It's been an absolute pleasure having you. Our first female guest. I think you gelled in great. Once we got the nerves done, we were good. We were big gelling. Glad to have you as our first female guest. Looking forward to having you as our first two-time female guest.
Hey.
But it's been a pleasure having you guys. I apologize for Brendan's shitty UK internet. I will go ahead and send us off. It's been an absolute pleasure having you guys today. You're listening to the Professional Heels podcast. I am your co-host, Gavin Gabriel, a.k.a. the Ugly Goldberg, Sexy Goldberg. Ugly Goldberg, knockoff Goldberg. Brendan is your other host, a.k.a. the Black John Cena. We have had your wonderful guest here, Heel.Liz, and we're looking forward to seeing you guys soon. And on that note, I bid you adieu.